Hi, my name's Keith Cooper from Northlight Images. This is one of my series of short videos covering aspects of being a professional working photographer. And this one is aimed at a few comments and things I've had, and also questions I've been asked about being a photographer. I'll start off with one that's a regular one. It says, do you ever work for nothing? And yes, I do occasionally work for nothing. However, it's not really for nothing. If it's a job, it's likely because I'm expecting to get something out of it. I know I'm getting something out of it. I don't do work for the bit where people say, well, we can't pay you, but we can give you exposure. Yeah, exposure, that's great. Yeah, try taking that to a restaurant, buying a meal with it. It doesn't work. What I would say is often you'll hear people say, you should never work for nothing. Well, you should consider what nothing actually means and whether it really is nothing. But you have to remember that some people really genuinely will work for nothing. People don't try this, we'll pay you, we can't pay you, we can mention your name and give you exposure stuff. They don't try this the first time with you when they ask you. They try it with you because they've got away with it before, which means that you have to accept that other people will do work for nothing. That can be slightly galling if you lose a job and you know somebody's just doing it for the hell of it. But really it comes about, if you're a professional photographer running a business, you need to know what sorts of work you're doing. And if it's something that someone's not willing to pay for, is it really the sort of work you want to do and get a name for doing? Now, when you're starting out, the temptation is there, and certainly I did a few lowball jobs to start out with just to get a bit more experience. Not too low, because you don't want people to think you don't know what you're doing. So, you know, when you're starting out, maybe. But in general, once you've got, no, I've been a professional photographer now since 2004. It would be something very special, or a personal project, charitable thing, for example, where I don't actually charge for a job. You move that direction. So think about where you are now, where you want to be, if you want to be a professional photographer. You may well have to start off low, but make sure you don't stay there. That's the important bit. Another thing is that big clients, people think, oh, I want such and such a company, I want to work for big clients and that. Don't make the mistake, and this used to be true years ago, more so, before, back in film days, there would be a budget for paying for photography, and the bigger companies had bigger budgets, so you could charge more for it. Well, it doesn't work that way anymore. Unfortunately, it is the case that people value a lot of images far less than they used to. The glut of images is here to stay. Phone cameras are going to continue getting better. The computing power in them will make them technically better. That isn't going to go away. You want to get work off people who value your contribution, who see a value. Now, I'm going to do a few more of these videos about the business side of things, covering value and things. I've done quite a few already, so do have a look at the various lists on the YouTube channel, which got various playlists covering things, the whole section covering business of photography. But you have to be realistic and accept that things are moving on. I mentioned that big clients these days don't necessarily pay better money. In fact, big clients are more likely to try and stiff you over image rights, payment terms and various things like that. When you're dealing with a large company, as far as they're concerned, if you're dealing with one person, that's great, but you're likely dealing with the accounts department. Oh no. The accounts department in any big company treats the company's money as its own. It treats it as stuff to be doled out carefully and acquired whenever it can. That's the function of the accounts department. And people in the accounts department, you will occasionally And actually not that occasionally, but quite often when you get through to them, you'll find they are actually genuinely nice people. But somewhere at a corporate level, there is a bit of nastiness and they want to do you out of things. So make sure you prepare for this by having all your terms and conditions set out. Now, I've done some other bits about business of what you should insist on about contracts and things like that. If you're working just on a verbal request, be very, very careful. I won't do that anymore. If someone makes a verbal request, we now have a procedure. We will send them a photography booking form, designed to be simple for them to fill in, but it has that they accept our terms and conditions, and that's important. And if they don't like it, be prepared to say no. There are jobs sometimes which you just get a bad feeling about. Now that comes from experience. I've covered that elsewhere, but it comes from experience, but do be prepared to say no. Likewise, if somebody offers you work on a work for hire basis, now that means you've got no rights to the pictures you take. Basically, you're paid to come along, do something, that's it, done. Now, in general, I absolutely will never do work for hire. I retain copyright. We license our images to people. They're not onerous terms and conditions, but they just protect our business, and that's the idea for it. However, when you're starting out and you want some experience, and be very careful with this, there's nothing actually wrong with doing a bit of work for hire. However, I've come across people who have done this, and maybe in portraiture or product photography, where they've just been got in as somebody who can work a camera, where they've created some stunning images by dint of their knowledge and effort and work, but they've got no rights to use these images at all. They can't even use them in their portfolio. So when you do think about doing some work like that, think about these images. Are they going to have another use for you? And that's always worthwhile when you take pictures. Think about what else might I use these, because specialism is excellent when you're being a professional photographer after a while. I specialise in industrial photography, architecture. I do other types of commercial photography as well. But if I'm in a nice place taking some pictures of a building for a client, and I visited a town somewhere, I will have a look and see what else there is in that town. Maybe spend a little time, just wander around, take a few more extra photos purely for myself. Why do it? Because I might be asked for an image. I might see an absolutely stunning new building that I haven't been paid to photograph. I'm going to photograph it. And if it's a really good photo, I'm going to use it in my portfolio. Now, my hope is, and this has actually happened, that somebody who was connected to the developer, the architect or someone with this new building will see my photo and think, whoa, that is so much better than the photos we paid for. Get this guy to come and take us some photos. Yes, that actually does happen. Not nearly as often as I'd like it to happen, but it does happen. And yeah, I'm sorry, photographer who just didn't do a very good job. That's how it works. I'm sure it's happened to me as well. I've had to go and take some photos on a dull day. It was the only day I could get access to a site or something like that. Somebody a few weeks later, when it's been open, has gone in, taken a great looking photograph. They've got a job through it. That's how it works. That's how business works. And that's what you have to remember as a professional photographer. You're running a business, and it is your job to promote that business. It's your job to bring in new business, to market that business, and do all the various bits and pieces you need for it. So that's some of the aspects that I would say about becoming a professional photographer. Now, professional photographer, what does that mean? Now, I'll cover that in the next video, or at least my version of it, because basically it comes down to professional photography clubs or institutes or associations or whatever they like to style themselves. Are they actually worthwhile? I'm not entirely certain, but I'll leave that to another video. And what I would say is have a look at some of the other videos. These are often just sort of put together aspects of my experience and life as a working professional photographer. Now, obviously in the last year we've had a serious shortage of work. One reason why I got around to starting to make some videos. But that's diversification. But please do subscribe if you find them helpful. Feel free to drop me an email or ask a question on the comments here on the video. And thank you very much.